Hi, my name is David. I'm the community manager for SoundCloud. SoundCloud is a company based in Berlin with a small office in London and San Francisco. And we're one of the largest, fastest growing platforms on the web for the creators of sound. Well, the big mission of SoundCloud is to become the leading, like the world's leading platform for any creator of sound. So if you think of, you can compare it a little bit to Flickr, to what Flickr has done to photos, or YouTube to videos, or even Twitter, for text. There's one piece of media missing on the web, and that's sound. So we think that sound is that the web is too quiet. So our big mission, is to unmute the web. I mean, there's been a lot of change in the industry, and I would argue that most of these changes were driven by technology, and they're affected. These changes have affected several levels of the music industry. But I think that today we're at a space where people create music more than ever. People listen to music more than ever, which is fundamentally a very good thing. And of course, there's always, industries always change and always, adapt to the current stage of technology, and technology was a big driver for these changes. I think that there's always been a lot of music, right? And it's just like with through the web and through technology, it just surfaces much faster. And access to musicians has become much faster for fans or followers to get access to music. So it's just like that. If you look at the industry of music instruments, right? It's one of the booming industries or segments of the music industry that oftentimes just get neglected. But if you think about it, it's like a huge industry, and it's actually very healthy. People really enjoy to create stuff, and it's so you have the entire music instruments segment, but then you have also the entire emerging segment of casual music creation. That you can compare it a little bit to what gaming, how gaming has changed. Is that with casual gaming or social gaming, you have it's now much easier to take a couple of minutes out of your day and tap into a game and just play it online on your own or just with other people. And similar to that, it's music. With devices like the iPhone or the iPad, it has now become so much easier for people to start creating music, and it always depends on what your goal is as a person, right? And how do you define your creation? What's your main aim you want to achieve? I don't think there's one business model. If you look at ecommerce on the web, there's many variations of how people make money. Different verticals on the web, and similar to what is to the music industry. It's like I don't think there's one business model or one way to change money in exchange for content. And technology has also helped people to define their aims of what they want to achieve as a creator, and then also find the best way for them how they want to value their creation, and which channels they want to choose to get it to their fans. So you have services like Bandcamp that really tore down the middleman and gave independent artists a very easy way to sell their tracks directly to their fans. And that's that's one way to put it, right? And you have a variety of different revenue models on the web now, and it always depends on what your proposition is as a company, to the artist or to the fan, and then people can select what fits best to them, what suits them best. if I am an artist, I can choose to get into a conversation with a fan when I want it, when I can, when I'm on the road, and I think this openness of information and communication powered by services like I mentioned before has given artists a whole new playground of building relationships with fans, because that's essentially what it's still about, right? It's still about it's 10 years ago it was the same thing. You would go on tour as a band and you would play in front of 10 people, and you would get value out of this, and you would continue to grow as an artist, and then hopefully the next tour it will be 100 people or 500 people or 5,000 people. And that's the same thing that happened 10 years ago. People were starting to build relationships and building trust, if you want, right? To tell them like, I'm an artist. I want you to come to my show. I want you to see what I create. I want you to see who I am as an artist. And if you like it, you can choose to come back next time. And if you compare it to Twitter, it's like, I'm an artist. I share bits and pieces of my life on tour, or I share a link to my SoundCloud profile, or things like that, and people people choose to start following you. They want to stay. They opt into having a relationship with you online, and it's really easy, because you can tap into that relationship and you can leave it when you don't want it anymore. I think SoundCloud has from the very beginning has focused on three key main things. The one thing is to build a product that is as easy as possible to use for any type of creator of sound, and that solves a problem, right? The second key part. So if you look back, when you wanted to share a piece of audio, between different people, you had to use very weird services that are ad-based, and you need to wait 90 seconds before you can download. There's no easy way to give feedback, so you need to type an email and that stuff. And the third thing is the third key reason is that the product was designed to encourage interaction between people, right? So it was suddenly a piece of audio, like we display every piece of audio with a waveform, and so suddenly the main focus is on the sound, right? And as a fan, as a client, as a collaborator, you can post comments in specific moments of the track. And so you were bringing the conversation into context of the sound, and you would start, instead of saying, I really like that track, you would say, I really like that moment in the track, right? And then you would have, a discussion starting around that comment, or that moment in the sound. And I think these were three of the main reasons why in the first place people were starting to use it. So it was easy to use, solved the problem, and it enabled collaboration and interaction between people. And so I think if we look at the many different use cases we see on SoundCloud every day, that's still one of the main, the key things happening on SoundCloud is that people interact around a sound. So for instance, there's this one guy, a composer in London called Oliver Sadie. And what he does is, instead of just putting his compositions on SoundCloud, he would actually find really interesting ways of engaging his followers or the community of composers or people interested. So he has this 10-minute piano improvisation, just a sketch that he was recording, and I could go to a part and say like, oh, you know what, Oliver, it would be really nice to have a string progression here, right? A string quartet, or some sort of strings. And what he would do is go through all the comments that people posted, and then in different layers he would incorporate these ideas in his composition, and he would privately share them. So yesterday he privately shared an iteration of that composition with 4 of the people that provide feedback, and would say like, you guys gave me the, you gave the best ideas to do a second iteration of the composition. So suddenly he was like, he was nurturing the relationship between me as a fan, if you want, and him as a composer. And so so for me it's that composer became someone important that that I want to have a relationship with online, and that's one of the it's very we see many little cases like that, but that's what makes SoundCloud magical, is that there's a platform, and it's all about sounds and engagement, a very social place, and people interact around these things, right? And we see many of these cases happening, independently from one another. It can be a sub-community of composers, or field recorders, or producers, or casual creators, podcasters, and voice artists. We have people who do, voice recordings, and they go, I don't know if you're familiar with the community called Reddit, the
Yes.
Reddit community. And so there was this one guy who said, I'm unemployed, I have some time, and I'm really good at speaking like an announcer, right? Like, welcome to. He would do the things like this. So he was engaging the Reddit community and giving him things to announce. And the guy, he called himself the voice of Reddit. He would use SoundCloud to to share these recordings with the Reddit community, and it's really cool. It just surfaced, and we saw him, and then we said like, oh, you know what? It's really cool what you're doing there, and can we ask you to do an announcement to thank all our Facebook fans for passing 300,000 likes on Facebook? And he did this. So that was really fun.
Ideally.
I think you can compare it to real life, right? So if let's say we've never met, right? And you see me on the street, and you come up and say like, "Rah! Listen to my tracks, listen to my stuff, and post some comments." I would say like, "Oh wow, what's going on? Like, this is really weird." But if you would approach me and say like, "I know your name is David. I'm an artist. I think we share a similar interest in that genre, or me as a creator," then suddenly like the dynamic changes, because you're really targeting me, and you're making the interaction meaningful, and you're trying to provide me with value, not only you. So if you translate that on the web, I think it's very similar. So it's not always about the amount of followers. I much rather have 10 followers with whom I have a really good relationship and interact with regularly, instead of having 1,000 who don't care. And to get to that point of building these meaningful relationships, I think a few of the key things is to make it meaningful, targeted, friendly, human, and don't try to be an asshole. It's basically the rule. And it's like in real life. Like imagine yourself doing what you do on a web in real life, and then you can see if that works or not. And I'm pretty sure that if you want to build a significant and meaningful large amount of follower, you need to do it in a creative way, in a meaningful way, and in a way that creates value.